Hey, so far this off season, I've been just kind of screwing around and building more bug guns because I like it. And I figured I'd check in with you guys and let you know what I've been thinking about. So I started putting together a couple of 365s in the 380 caliber. I made one video about these already. I think they're awesome so far, but made me start thinking about, like, I'm probably not going to shoot Bug Division anymore, but if I were going to, what would I change about it, or what would I like to see be better about it? And I came up with a number of things, and this gun is kind of a direction I would like to see the division go. So I got some footage from a match that I was the match director of yesterday. We raised some money for a good cause called Operation Second Chance. Check that out. It's one of our partner charities you can donate to on our website, www.dz214. But let's check out a few more of the stages, a little bit more footage, and I'll come back, show you the gun, and talk a little bit about Bug Division, where it came from, and where I think it should go.
Yeah, if you're finished unloading.
So the first thing I kind of want to talk about is I want to give you a little bit of history about where the Bug Division came from. So this is what I understand and what I can gather from the internet. It's not like a IDPA or practical shooting archives anywhere that you can go look it up. Some of this information I found on YouTube. Some of it I found from other people who were making videos like this at the time. Some of it I found off of Wikipedia, and some of it's just stuff I've heard about the division, through the years of doing it. So to my understanding, Bug Division was kind of a thing people were doing as not as part of a division the way we think of it now. It was like it could only really be done as its own match, because when it first started, there was only the traditional idea of a backup gun was a 5-shot revolver, and so that was kind of what the division started off of. So when it first came about, it was 5 shots. No reloads on the clock, so every stage had to be 5 shots only, and IDPA stages just aren't usually that way, and so it couldn't really be shot at its own division. It was sort of its own match, and I don't know this for certain, but I think that's where so for a while Smith & Wesson had like Backup Gun Nationals, its own thing, and you can still see the videos on YouTube, and each stage was that way. It was like five shots, that's the style of the match. So, and then in 2015, it got its own box, its own barrel length requirement, and its own rules, and it became its own division. And it was required now in Tier 1, which it still is, and optional for Tier 2 through Tier 5 matches. For some context, in that time frame, 2015 was about the heyday of the single stack 9mm. So the Glock 43 came out in 2014, I think. The single stack 380 craze was kind of coming to an end. That started in about 2008, maybe a little earlier, with like the Keltec P3AT and the Ruger LCP. Then the progression of guns slowly moved into the single stack 9, where we got the Smith & Wesson Shield, the XDM, which was 45 ACP to begin with, in a move where everyone was like, what are you doing? We want that in a 9. Soon it came out in 9, so fix the problem, or fix the mistake, if you ask me. But I had it in 45, and it was a beast. But so in 2015, when the rules changed, that was sort of what the division was, or I think so. I think that was kind of the idea behind it, was that backup guns, our idea of what a backup gun used to be was these 5-shot revolvers, and it evolved into single stack 380s, because now they allowed 380 or 9mm with the single stack 9s, and the capacity restriction, I think, being 6 rounds, was one so that they could I don't know, work it with revolvers in a way, but also because that was a good number of, like, all these single stacks are going to hold 6. Some of them would hold 7, some 8, some 9, but all of them held 6. So I don't know that this is the idea behind it, but it seems intuitive to me that maybe they went with 6 rounds because of a revolver holds 6 rounds, as well as all the single stack 9s and 380s would hold 6. And maybe not, though, because they still stuck with Bug R, which is the 5-shot, revolver. But maybe that's just because that's where they came from. They wanted to keep that. I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of where we came from as far as where Bug Division came from. But just as we've seen the progression go from the 5-shot revolver to the single stack 9mm, now we've moved on to the micro compact. And I think it's time to have a discussion about what Bug Division can be, or whether or not guns in that size are backup guns, because it's my contention that they're not, that these are everyday carry. And even then, the single stack 9s I think were everyday carry guns. I think that the micro compacts are everyday carry guns. But let's look a little bit more footage from the match, and I'll come back and I'll give you, I got about 6 things that I think if we changed them in Bug, it could be a really, really cool division, and something that people would be more excited than they are about shooting a backup gun. More excited than they are now about it. So.
Finish and let's show clear. Finish unload, show clear.
Okay, so that's the end of the match. In addition to being just a match that I got to MD and work with the Cherries to get them a little bit more money. Some of those stages, maybe someone to be the match director for the Washington State match this year. We might be seeing some variations on those stages, but coming out at the state match. So I got to work those up a little bit. But in addition to all of that, I shot in Specialty Division. I didn't shoot in Bug Division because I shot 10 rounds, as you saw. And the reason I did that because the first thing I would change about Bug is the round count. So I shot it with a Bug gun, or what I think a good approximation of a Bug gun would be, which is this. This is a 365X with the Wilson Combat grip frame and the Empire Katana magwell, as well as on this side of the gun the Go Guns gas pedal. I use the 15-round mags. I probably would go shorter mags if it was used in that division, but as a quick side note, I'm happy to report that all of the 9mm mags work with the 380, so that's awesome. I've yet to have a malfunction. The only malfunction I had was when I was loading, load and make ready, one round didn't go into the chamber all the way, so I had to drop the mag and pull it out. But the second time I went in, and that's really the only problem I've had with it, so not much of a problem at all. But yeah, the first thing I would like to see changed about the Bug Division is I would like to see it at 10 rounds. I think that every other division is at 10, and with the micro compact guns that we've got now, they all hold more than that. So we're kind of sticking with that same idea that if there's some that have lesser or some that have more, maybe we don't go all the way to 15 or 12 or whatever. We just stay at 10, just like the other divisions, and that way we don't have to plan around Bug. The only thing we'd really be planning around is CDP, because that's to be the only division left that's not at 10 or more, with SSP at 15. But I don't really see a reason to keep it at 6 with the way that these guns are now. So I think round count is one place we could definitely do better with Bug. The next thing I think we could change is the name. The name is kind of dumb. I get it that it's an acronym for backup gun, cool, but Bug just kind of makes it sound weird and creepy, and it makes me think of creepy crawly bugs, and I think it's weird. So I think we should change that. Like I said before, or I alluded to a little bit earlier, like these aren't really backup guns. In the same way that a stock service pistol sort of describes the pistol that works in that division, like a gun that's stock that you would use if you were a police officer on duty. That's kind of what the name alludes to. And like I said, I don't think these are backup guns anymore. I think we've moved out of the idea of a 5-shot revolver for backup, or a single stack 9 or 380 for backup, into the idea that these are everyday carry guns. And the term EDC is incredibly popular in the market in terms of selling guns or whatever, or gun magazines or whatever you're into. I think that naming the division EDC just makes sense, and you might bring in more people who are like, oh, an everyday carry division, awesome, that's for me. I got a DDC gun. Let's see what this is about. Especially since we're doing appendix now. So many people are, and that I've converted like entirely. Like I used to be like I'll just throw an LCP in my pocket and call it good and hope nothing, it's be a slow way to draw. But I've converted to, I've got a 365 and I'm appendix carrying every day. That's how I do it now. That's how I carry. So I think that's the way that things are going right now, and I think that IDPA and the shooting sports in general will be wise to kind of follow that. And kind of moving into a little bit more with the division itself, the next thing I would change is the box. A lot of these guns don't fit in the box, and I don't want to go so we get into 365X macro territory. At some point, we're not talking about small guns anymore. If we keep making them bigger, then we're not talking about small guns anymore. I saw a comparison on the interwebs somewhere where they were comparing a 365X and a 320 compact, and they're pretty similar. Like I know that the barrel is smaller with the macro because it's ported, or it's not ported but the slide is ported, and all that, and I get it. But at some point we're back into compact territory. We're no longer micro compact, we're compact. And so I wouldn't want to make the box too much bigger, but where I think we could sacrifice in height and length, I think we could make up for in width. So right now the only true double stack that fits in the box really well is the Glock 26, and that's at like a 1.26 inch wide or something like that. So I think we could stay right about there with that width, or maybe even go down to like an inch. That might exclude something like the Go Guns gas pedal that I've got on this thing. But if we stayed at 1.26, all of the micro compacts would fit. But if we went to a length of I don't know, a little bit longer than 6'5", maybe 7 inches, all of these would, in addition to the 365X and the 365 and the smaller versions of these guns, the next size up, the 365 XL, Taurus is making one that's about that size, the Springfield Hellcat Pro, there's ones that are about the Glock 48, I think Glock 48 would be too long, I think it'd be too big, but definitely the Glock 43, things like that, small micro compact carry guns in an EDC division going from the appendix would be a really interesting way, at least for me, and I assume for other people or more people, to go back and forth, to shoot ESP or CCP with my big gun and go, oh man, this is awesome, this is just how much do I degrade, or how can I shoot compared to my big gun versus my little carry gun. So gauging that between shooting to those two divisions would be really beneficial to people, as well as fun. I think you get more people in there, and participation is one thing I'm going to talk about here in a minute. But yeah, so if we're going to talk about the box, we've got to talk about dots, because along with the micro compact explosion in micro compacts, everybody's making one. We've seen the same rise in everybody's making a micro dot for these things. So I think we would be wise to not ignore that, to have the idea of how are we going to work that into a division. So at first I was kind of thinking maybe we have a EDC irons and an EDC optics, but I didn't really want to I don't think we should subdivide the bug division or this division any further. So another thought I had was, what if we had one box that was 7 inches long, 5 inches high, and 1 inch deep, and that's the box. That's the box for EDC. If you can get your gun in there and it's got a dot on it, you can shoot it. And if you can get your gun in there with irons on it, you can shoot it. So what that would mean would be that, let's say a guy is going to run the 365X or a 365 in some iteration, but he wants to put a dot on it. Maybe he can fit it in the box if it's the regular 365 with the small grip frame. But if he's got irons, he's got a little bit more to hang on to. He can have the larger grip frame or maybe the longer barrel. And so it evens the playing field a little bit more between irons and dot on these little guns, to where I think that there's maybe not we would find out, I guess, where the real competitive advantage lies. Like, is it better to have more grip on the gun? Is it better to have the dot? I think there's a give and take there that it would sync up well enough that you could have it all in one division without breaking it up into two divisions, which I think would be really, really cool. Moving on, power factor. Power factor for Bug Division is 95, and the best. So there's I've talked about this before. There's no ammo in 380 that will make power factor. I think it's a mistake to ignore 380 as a self-defense cartridge, and that's going to be contentious. I know that there's a lot of people who are like, 380, what are you doing? You can't shoot 380. That won't even hurt anybody. I'm on the other side. I think 380 is just good enough to use. I think it's the bottom end of calibers for concealed carry. But maybe that would open up for something for the new 30 super carry. Maybe there's something in there that, or a load that would meet 95. We could allow that in the EDC division. It might help 30 carry get off the ground if it's not going to. We'll find out if it's going to stick around, if it's going to go away the way of 45 gap or 357 sig or something like that. For 380 though, I think if we could do it, I think the main argument against why we can't have 90 power factor is because the steel is too difficult to calibrate. I've been shooting the 380 only for 4 matches, but there's been steel at every one, and it hits it and falls down. I haven't had any issues with it. So I don't know. That's what I'm told. The reason is because we can't go lower than 95 because we don't want to, have any. It's too difficult to calibrate the steel. So if that's what it is, then okay, I can't make any until somebody makes a better, design for falling steel. I don't have anything to change about that. The other thing is participation. Not so much something that I would change, but something that I think would increase, or a repercussion of making these changes was I think participation would increase. I think there's not really a good place for people to go and shoot these micro compacts, because if you go into SSP, you're not, I'm going to say you're outgunned, but you are outgunned in a way. That you got bigger guns, they absorb more recoil, they're easier to shoot, you got more sight radius generally. So if you go shoot your micro compact in SSP, you're not really competitive. Same in ESP, same in CCP, to a lesser extent, I guess, in CCP. But yeah, there's just not a really good place. And Bug there's not really much going on with Bug now anyway. So this might be a way, if IDPA and people are not concerned, but if they have an idea that, hey, maybe this would be a way to get more guns into the sport, more people into the sport, and just increase participation in general, I think this would be a good division to look at, and a good way to bring another dot gun or dot division into the sport, because it doesn't make sense to put it on an ESP gun, because you put a dot on an ESP gun and it's a CO gun. And when you're putting a dot on a gun, barrel length becomes less relevant. So you put it on a 4-inch barrel or a 4 1/4 for CCP, and you're just in CO again. If you want to shoot guns that size in CO or with a dot, then just shoot them in CO. But shooting a dot with a bug gun or an EDC gun, the controls are smaller, the gun is smaller, recoil is different. So the difference between shooting CO or a dot with a micro compact and shooting a dot with a big gun is different enough that it would warrant it's another division. So that's my thoughts on it. And kind of the last thing I have to say about it, I guess, is that I think that there's about participation, I guess, still. SIG for the last couple of years has run a match, the SIG P365 championship. It's all 365. They have a couple different. First year they had 4 or 5 divisions, and there was the XL with an open and CO and all this stuff. Last year I think they just did stock 365 CO and something else, I don't remember. But I shot it the first year. I didn't think it was great, but it wasn't. It was. I think it proves that there's, desire to shoot these guns. But the numbers went up. So the first year they had 131 shooters, and next year they had 202. So I think that the desire to compete with these guns is out there, or to for those people who are using competition as their way of training, to do that too. So I think there's a wide open opportunity in IDPA with the rules we have now, appendix carry, and the slide forward reloads. I think it's just the sport in general is just ready for a division for these sorts of guns, and I think we should give it to them. So I sent a letter to IDPA, kind of talking about all the stuff I've talked about here. I don't have any great ideas that they're going to listen to me, and they don't have to. It's not that sort of thing. It's just like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. What are you guys thinking about, or are you thinking about it? So anyway, I hope to hear something back from them. If I do, I'll let you guys know. I don't suspect I will, but those are my thoughts.